Imagine walking into a courtroom, already judged not by your actions, but by the color of your skin. The judge chuckles as you stand, assuming you're just another troublemaker teen. But then, you speak, and what you reveal flips the entire courtroom upside down. The courtroom stare-down rain poured like judgment from the skies above. Atlanta, as 17-year-old Amara Johnson adjusted the oversized hoodie she wore soaked at the edges, clinging to her skin. Her braids were neatly tied back, and her face carried an expression not of fear, but of calculation. She walked into Fulton County Juvenile Court without a lawyer, just a small black leather folder clutched to her chest like armor. The bailiff glanced at her without interest, and the courtroom buzzed with the quiet tension of minor disputes waiting to be heard. Her case was last on the docket: People versus Amara Johnson, misdemeanor trespassing, theft of school property. The judge, a gray-haired man named Harold Whitman, was checking his watch with impatience. As Amara stepped to the front, he barely looked at her, his lips curling into a dismissive smirk. "We've got another scholar," he mumbled, just loud enough for the courtroom to hear. The chuckles that rippled through the back came from court clerks and officers, all too used to cases like this. "Black kid, no lawyer, probably guilty." "State your name," Judge Whitman said, peering over his glasses. "Amara Johnson, Your Honor," she replied, her voice steady and clear. "Are your parents here?" "My mother passed last year, and my he's not in my life." The judge sighed. "Of course. Public school, I assume?" She nodded. "Magnet program." "Honors track, really?" he said with a raised brow, mock surprise on his face. "And now you're being charged with theft. Guess even honor students have their bad days." Amara didn't flinch. But inside her chest, a storm swirled harder than the one outside. Because she knew. This court didn't know the whole story. Not even the case unfolds. The prosecutor, a young man fresh out of law school, laid out the charges. Amara had allegedly broken into her school's science lab after hours and removed sensitive files and equipment. "We have surveillance footage," he said confidently, "and testimony from the janitor who saw her near the lab door at 8:13 p.m. on a Tuesday." Judge Whitman barely looked at Amara. "Do you wish to plead guilty and throw yourself on the mercy of the court?" "No, Your Honor," Amara said, her tone unwavering. "I would like to represent myself and present evidence." The courtroom stiffened. The judge raised his eyebrows. "You want to represent yourself?" "I'm legally permitted to. As a minor with no available guardian and no assigned counsel," she replied. "And I'd like to enter into evidence this flash drive and several printed documents." She walked to the clerk's table and handed them over. "The surveillance footage provided by the school has been doctored. Here's the original file, unaltered, pulled from a backup server the administration forgot to delete." The prosecutor blanched. "Objection," he shouted. "This evidence wasn't submitted through discovery." "She has no counsel," the judge grumbled. "We'll allow it for now." As the footage played, the courtroom leaned in. The original tape showed Amara entering the building, but not the lab. Instead, it showed two senior students from wealthy families, both white, both varsity athletes, sneaking into the lab hours. Earlier, it also showed them carrying out items in duffel bags. Amara had only entered the hallway to use the school Wi-Fi, something she had done before to upload her scholarship applications, as her home had no internet. Silence filled the court. Even the judge leaned forward. "Where did you get this?" he asked. "I hacked into the backup server," Amara said bluntly. "With a little Python script I wrote in my computer science class. I was trying to clear my name." The judge stared at her like she had grown wings. The truth. The judge leaned back, visibly shaken. "Are you telling me the school knowingly provided altered footage?" "Yes, sir. And I believe the two students responsible were protected because their parents are board donors." Amara reached into her folder and retrieved printed emails. These are messages between Principal Hurston and several staff members. They discussed deleting or editing footage to prevent a scandal. One email says, and I quote, "Better we pin this on a kid who doesn't make the news." The courtroom went dead quiet. Judge Whitman looked pale. "This is serious," he muttered. "Very serious." "There's more," Amara added, her voice gaining strength. "I also found falsified detention records. I've never even been written up at school, but suddenly I had 6 citations the week after the lab break-in. They were retroactively added to my file." She passed more documents. "I created an algorithm to detect inconsistent digital timestamps. These entries were made from a district admin account during off hours." The prosecutor looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. The judge called for a recess. "Miss Johnson, I don't know what to say." "I do," she said softly. "I want justice. And I want a formal investigation into everyone involved." A local news reporter who had been covering the juvenile docket now had their phone out, rapidly texting. The next day, the story hit the headlines. "Black teen proves her innocence in court, exposes school corruption live before judge." The video went viral. Interviews followed. The school board scrambled for damage control. The world watches her. Amara didn't stop there. With the public on her side, she filed a civil suit with a pro bono legal team who offered to represent her for free. Depositions revealed that the principal had been pressured to protect the donor kids. The emails and backup server logs were damning. By mid-year, the school's leadership was dismantled. Federal investigators were called. The judge who had once smirked at her found himself issuing an official apology, not just to Amara but on public record, for how he had judged her before hearing her. "You taught me something today," Judge Whitman said in his statement. "And I hope the whole country is listening." Amara was offered full scholarships from top universities, Harvard, Stanford, MIT. She chose MIT and became a keynote speaker at a nationwide education conference titled "Seeing Beyond the Surface." There, she shared her story and said, "I was judged because of my zip code, my skin color, and my silence. But truth is power. And when you speak it boldly, change follows." That speech racked up millions of views online. Schools across the country revisited their student surveillance policies. Amara later launched a nonprofit called Code the Truth, teaching coding and digital literacy to underserved youth, so no other teen would be voiceless like she once was. And years later, as Judge Whitman retired from the bench, he sent her a letter not as a judge, but as a man who had been changed. "You made me better. You made us all better," it read. Amara Johnson didn't just win her case, she rewrote the system.